Okay.
Oh, right.
Okay, awesome. We got 3 watching right now. Um, hopefully more people will start to filter in. Um, okay. So you guys, oh, refresh. Tell people to refresh.
Okay. Oh,
Oh my
um,
goodness. All right. Well, as people work in, Will, should I go ahead and start
yeah.
asking
So I'll quickly
questions?
be like, hey, this is my producer Kelly. He's been helping me out for a few months now, and he decided to be like, he's like, hey, you need to do this thing, and I'm like, okay, fine. Because it's a good idea. Uh,
Yeah.
and
So, I think what we're gonna do is we have a bunch of pre-submitted questions, but we also want to answer audience questions as they kind of come in, if that's fine. So we'll just kind of free flow it. I'll ask a question, Will answer it. Um, and then we'll go from there. And so we're so sorry about the technical issues, man. This is our first time doing this, but we're working on it, uh, and we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna get it nailed. We want to do more of this, so you guys have an opportunity to talk to Will. Um, and then yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and so, James, if you actually just submit your question or questions in YouTube chat, we're using Restream as a client. It should automatically come over as long as you're in the right YouTube video, and it seems like you are. So, if you have any questions as this is going on, please post your questions in YouTube chat, and we'll actually get notified as they come in. And then that way I'll just sort of collect them all, and then hopefully we get through them as we go. Um, yeah, so great question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the first question. So this is from Matthew. Will, um, when in a social environment, how do you remember all the tips out there to being more social when you have ADHD?
yeah,
You
so
can't.
I can go.
Yeah.
Oh, is there more?
Yes.
Or
You can't hold a notepad with a list of things to ask someone or reminders to smile and nod or similar social tips to read and help remind you. How do you remember these things with ADHD without looking like a weirdo?
yeah, um, I mean, is looking like a weirdo such a bad thing? But okay, you said social situations, so yes, that's not where we want to be looking like a weirdo most of the time. But of course, that is also uh, when you can find people that are really kind of like minded. It's looking like a weirdo is great. But I understand there's situations where you want to be employing those social skills you're learning, and it's hard because there is a lot to remember. And so there's two things that I can really think of that I are important here. Is one is just trying to do one thing at a time. Like be like, hey, this is one of many social situations I'm going to be in. I'm going to be learning one skill today, and that's the skill I'm going to work on making sure to ask their name or making sure to keep eye contact or whatever it is that particular social skill you want to work on that day. And through practice, that will become easier to do, and you won't be like, oh, I need to remember this and this and this. And then the other thing to really keep in mind is what you want to be getting out of the social situation, because often we're like, I'm going to make this person my best friend. And that is not how to do social situations. You want to show up as your authentic self as best you can. And so sometimes that's going to mean that you're going to have some awkward social situations where you're not necessarily being the person in your head, but you're still being yourself. So I know in there's many social situations where I'm like, oh, I'm going to be this guy, and that's not when I end the night. Being that guy wasn't really a good goal. Being someone that being myself is a better goal. Where if I can make the goal of the night being to show up as myself, then that ends up usually being a much better night for my social skills because I am able to socialize with the people I want to, and I'm not being fake with a bunch of other people and feeling bad about how I was being fake. So, hope that helps.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great response to that question. Um, yeah, next one. Um, from Ty. When you need help from family and friends due to lack of focus, but they don't take ADHD seriously, how do you ask for help in a way that you get the support you need? Or should you try and find other outlets and resources for help outside of family and friends to minimize your frustration and protect your feelings?
Yeah. And we had another one that was like on the same lines too, with like their parents not taking them, not believing in ADHD too, right?
Yeah, so that was another question. It's like how do you almost get them to like believe you or help or like yeah, I think that kind of goes along the lines of people who are struggling with that.
Yeah, this is a very tough situation. Be especially for the other question where they're asking about their parent being, and they're like, yeah, they don't believe in ADHD. How do I get them to believe? And it's like, unfortunately, you can't make people believe. And I know this is even harder with parents. Parents are really bad at listening to their children. I know this from experiences being a parent, and then like my kids being like, "You're not listening," and I'm like, "You're right. This was, like having enough introspection to like hear like, oh yeah, you're trying to tell me something, and I'm listening to what I want to hear right now." Um, and it's really hard to do as a parent, and so uh I would not really expect that kind of thing to happen all that often. It's really hard to convince people to take something seriously, especially when their only reference is pop culture. It really depends on how open they are to listening to what you have to say about ADHD and whether or not you can get them to even engage with the idea. If they can't engage with the idea, you're going to have to just kind of seek out support from other systems. There are a lot of great online communities for ADHD with focusing on various things. I used to recommend the uh, ADHD subreddit, and I'm a little bit more hesitant on that now, but they're still a great place to start. And I think I mean, I'm kind of hesitant. They are a very large group now, so you can't, and support comes much better in smaller communities. Uh, and so looking for something that kind of like drills down into your particular niche of who you are as a person, like kids with parents that won't listen to them would be a great place to go. Or there's like the men's ADHD support group. There's women's ADHD support groups. There's um, like neuroqueer groups, and all those kind of things are great to focus on when you're trying to get support and finding that community aspect when you can't get that from the rest of your family because they're just not listening. And then along with that, uh, I, I can also see the part where, yeah, that's great, but I can't, if without getting an assessment, I can't get medication or do a lot of other get accommodations or a lot of other things. And yeah, and that sucks. And so the kind of things you have to go there for, look for the other non-medication skills that you can work on. How what are the like setting schedules, getting good sleep, eating a more balanced diet. Protein often helps with keeping you satiated and not burning through your energy reserves too quickly. Because often when we have this like fluctuating energy pattern from bad sleep, eating poorly, not being hydrated, that exacerbates all of our ADHD symptoms. So trying to focus on the when things are out of control, focusing on the things you can control.
Awesome. Great. And we also have a one of our first questions that came in chat. Um, it says, "I have a job where I have to do massive amounts of paperwork. How do I manage my ADHD and manage my paperwork?" This is from Roberta Norellis.
Yeah, um paperwork's tricky because for number like often it's very boring. It's not something where you're like, oh, I'm super thrilled I get to do fill out these forms and there's a bunch of them. Uh, First thing that comes to mind is making sure you have a plan going ahead of time of what you want, how you want the paperwork to look when it's done. Like, what's the end goal? Where does it need to be organized in a certain way? Does it need to be referenced? All of those things. Like, okay, if I know what I need to do with it in the end, then I can come back to a system that works. I know I've um, been doing stuff with like paperwork, and I'll like set it down and be like, not come back to it right away. And I'm just like, I have to read through all of this again because I don't remember what I did and what I didn't do. So I often, when I'm doing lots of paperwork, will write myself a note at the end to be like, here's what I did and here's what I need to do next. And that's very helpful for coming back to stuff like taxes and stuff, being like, I don't know what to do with there. And then also, if it is just the boredom aspect of working with paperwork, figuring out ways to make it a little bit more interesting, adding listening to music, gamifying it a little bit, where it's like every form that I fill out or process, I can get a point, and then after 5 points, I get like a little candy or something. Uh, can be a great way to make it a little bit more interesting, and then making sure you're taking breaks along with it because when it's I know when I get to that point where I'm like, man, I cannot focus on this anymore. Taking some kind of brain break and then coming back to it makes it so much easier.
Awesome. Cool. I that's yeah, I even with people without for people without ADHD, it's tough to manage that amount of
Mhm.
paperwork too, depending on your job too, you know. So awesome. I'm going to try something here. Um, we have all these pre-submitted questions, and I think what happens a lot of the time is when someone joins the stream a bit late and you're talking, they don't know what that
Mm.
is. So what I'm going to do is this. So this is our next one of our pre-submitted questions. What are your favorite tips for staying organized? Now this is a loaded question, I'm sure, and Will touches on this a lot in his podcast. So I don't know, Will. Maybe how many tips do you want? I mean, there's tips. There's probably so many tips, but how many tips do you want to talk about? I'm sure you have an idea.
Yeah, I have a few things that I kind of thought about when I looked over this question earlier. And the first thing that came to mind is that it often depends on what you were talking about when you're meaning getting organized. Because it's like, is this at work, like with this paper question, or is it clutter at home? Um, is it your to-do list? There's like a lot of places where we can be like, I want to get organized. Excuse me. Um, so the first place I'm going to start is like with clutter. When you have all this stuff in your home and it's gross, I'm looking at my desk and that's how I am right now. Even though I cleaned this like 3 days ago, how is it so messy again? Uh, so, uh, so, uh, and the reason is because for many of these things, it's because I don't have a place for them to live yet, and that's a really important thing to have for keeping cutting down clutter. Is if I don't have a place for something to live, I can't put it away, and that's a means that it's always going like I'll just be moving it around from place to place for infinity. A little bit of exaggeration there, but it's it can't be put away if there's not a place to put it away. So, and then this then gets kind of hampered though by the fact that we have this like out of sight, out of mind. We're like, okay, this place thing is going to live in the drawer, and then we never see it again, and that's not great either. So, what can help here? Having like clear bins that you're putting stuff in, having hooks that you hang stuff up, uh, having or like having like a place like I have like medications on my counter. I have a little bin that's open on the top so I could just stick them in there. And then they go in that spot. And if I need to move them, the entire bin can move and I can see in and they don't just wander around the counter. Same thing with like our shoes at home. Like my kids kind of wanted to just toss their shoes everywhere when there was just like they go in the closet, then they're just slowly migrating out of the closet. Now we have a bin. They all go into the bin, and there's like the shoes are not put away until they're actually in the bin. And so it kind of gives that like finality of this is where things go. I mean, this is why we lose our keys as often we don't have a place to put our keys. We're like, oh, they just go here on the counter. Like, no, they go on this hook, they go in this basket, they go in a place where I can always find them. And when I need to put them away, that is where they go. Now, this, we were also talking a little bit, getting this like organization can mean a lot of things. So if we're trying to talk about organizing what we're doing, we want to be thinking kind of in these same terms of are we going to put this information away so that we can find it in a meaningful way later. So it's like appointments need to go into the calendar. Like calendar is like the go-to of got to have it. Where are these things going to go? And making sure that it is not overly. If we put too much stuff in a single place, it can be really distracting and make it hard to engage with. This is a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm going to have this master to do list of every single thing I want to do ever. And the to do list started off useful. And then it became this thing that's just, I can't find what the next thing I want to do is. And so we need to do the kind of thing where it's like, I want to only keep the most important things on my to do list, the things that I'm actually going to be doing next. And I know personally that it feels like everything that am writing down on the to list is something that I'm going to do next. But it is, I got to make choices and being like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be doing that right away. Is that happening this week? Is that happening this month? Like, when do I need to have this information? If it's like, okay, if I need to have this information in a month, okay, this can go on a calendar where it's like, hey, the calendar thing is just like, hey, add these items to the to-do list because they're coming up that I have to do them now. If it's a someday maybe like, oh, I really want to look into how to do this particular learn this particular skill, but I'm not going to do it right now, but I do want to write down some of the information about it. Someday maybe list can be great. So it's about making sure that you're not dumping everything into a doom box of a to-do list. And that's a great thing with the organization piece. We don't want doom boxes. Like we put everything in one place and then never see it again, and we're sad.
Hmm. Awesome. Thanks, Will. That was a great answer. So basically, um, we have this next question too. It's kind of a longer one, but basically, oh, what? How is that showing up now? There we go. All right. I'm training to be a coach, and as a late diagnosed ADHD, I'm thinking of getting trained and certified to be an ADHD coach. How would you advise choosing a program and setting up a practice? That's a that's a big question.
Yeah, and I'm not a coach, so I don't have a huge background in coaching. But the first thing that comes to mind is the ACO, the ADHD Coaches Organization, that you can find at adhdcoaches.org. They are the accreditation group for ADHD coaches, and we do want to make sure that we like if you were looking for a coach, you probably want to find someone that has gone through that kind of process. So getting that kind of accreditation is important, and then also figuring out what you want to focus on as a coach. What are the particular skills that you want to teach? What's the audience that you're looking to serve? It feels like, oh, I want to just help people with ADHD, but it's like, okay, well, there are more specific things that we can think about. Do I want to work with like what age group am I most comfortable working with? Maybe I want to work with like diagnosed people. Maybe I want to work with people that have had like diagnosis from when they were kids, but never followed through with learning the skills to deal with ADHD. There's a lot of places that you can do, there's a lot of underserved communities that can be really helped by figuring out, oh, if I niche down to these groups, I can really help these people, which is kind of why I want to get into coaching anyways. And so that's kind of where I start my focus. And then also making sure that you are um, uh, going through the accreditation process and not just being like, hey, this is what I want to do. Because unfortunately, there's no one saying that you can't just be a coach and do whatever. And while that is good for some people, it is really a hazard for a lot of people because we don't always know who we can trust.
Awesome. Thank you. I know that was a big question. Um, thanks, James. We'll look into that. We're adjusting our platform and everything like that, so we'll be sure that none of that's uploaded twice. Um, or if it is, we'll look into it. Um, Next question. Here you go. This isn't an ADHD question, Will. So are you ready for this?
I think I know which one it is.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? I think this is a reference to Monty Python, Search for the Holy Grail.
Yeah, which means
Uh,
the appropriate answer is African or European. Um, and
I that movie is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's so quotable. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess we don't know if it's African
uh,
or European.
I actually did spend some time researching this, and I don't know where I put those notes. Uh, so we will. Uh, if you Google it, there are some people that have put a lot of thought into this question, and it is not worth reading.
I think it's good too, right? Because we're gonna try and get through all these questions, and this is a good point to make for everybody who's joined us after the whole stream. We had technical issues. We had to do um, a new link and everything. But if you have any questions, please post them in YouTube chat, and we'll get through them how they come in, um, and then. Um, if for some reason we don't get through all the questions, we can do like a question podcast episode of listener questions. So yeah, don't if we don't hit your question, don't be discouraged. We'll get to it eventually. We just want to keep everything kind of succinct and tight. But anyway, thank you guys all for being here. We're gonna continue. Oh,
Yep. Well, I was
here's
gonna also from the before we moved over, I saw one of the questions that someone was asking why I started the podcast. And I felt that was worth going into a little bit, and it was because I wanted to help myself. It was a very selfish like uh, if I uh, if I spend the time working on the podcast, I will learn. I will spend the time. Like it will give me the accountability to spend the time to research these things and learn these things, and more than just read about them, like spend the time to try and understand them so that I can teach it to other people, which is a very valuable thing to myself. And then it turned out that other people liked it too, so that was great. But I started the podcast. I had started doing ADHD coaching. I went, this is really useful. And then for a while, I had been trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I had previously done a podcast on Ultimate Frisbee, and I really enjoyed the podcasting aspect of it. But at the time, I really did not like booking the guests and doing the interview. I enjoyed the interview portion, but booking the guests and the editing of a long podcast was a pain and not something I enjoyed. So I was like, I'm going to do a short podcast, and it's going to be monologue, so I don't have to book anyone. And at the time, I thought it would be way easier to just edit my monologues. That turned out to be false because I am bad brain when talk. So that kind of like I would just like be like, oh, I'm gonna have to start the sentence 25 times, and that was not the best. But I got there. It's actually better. Why much better to uh, do all my editing stuff now. Even though I don't do it, I have an editor, and it's amazing. Uh, and having a producer is amazing because I can get things done.
It's true. And that's a very good question. Yeah, that's a great question. And then Janice makes a point. So help others by helping yourself. which is valid in so many walks of life, um, because it's hard to feel like you're equipped to help others if you don't have enough love or respect or confidence in yourself too.
Well, and it's also the great airplane adage of apply uh, your breathing mask before helping others, because if you're not helping yourself first, you're not going to be able to help others either.
Yeah, super valid. We got another question from Nathan Shorsh. Okay, let's see what he says. Why do you what do you feel is the biggest misconception between how ADHD affects your life and the way that neurotypical people view ADHD? Ooh, great question, Nathan.
Mm, one second. Um, what? I mean, it comes down to like what's in pop culture, and pop culture is awful at representing basically everything because it's like lowest common denominator, just whatever makes people think like, oh, this is like with when you have a TV show and you have a um have someone that has ADHD and you want them people to know, they're like, we're gonna go with the strongest indicators, like what do people what pops into people's mind, and it's like the squirrel meme, and it's like squirrel, oh, it's like, oh, that guy has ADHD because they did the thing, and it makes it's a crutch to help the audience understand what's going on. So that makes it so that a lot of people with who view ADHD have a ton of like bad ideas of what it is. I think the biggest misconception right now is that the only way that ADHD is treated is through medication, and that medication makes you a zombie, which is just not true. I mean, we had congressional hearings yesterday where people were like, "Yeah, you can treat ADHD by beating your children with a belt," and it's like that is not true. Like medication is by far the most effective treatment for ADHD. In fact, it's so effective that it like any condition that had that kind of success rate that ADHD does, ADHD has with medication, is makes it so that any condition that had that same kind of success rate would just love it. So I think the biggest misconception just is that ADHD is just being distracted when it's really more about being unable to regulate your attention, unable to regulate your emotions. It's a big thing about self-regulation, where it's attention is a piece of that, but it's not the end all be all of what ADHD actually is. As James mentioned, yeah, the 30-second clips just don't give enough context around ADHD for people to really understand it. It is a you think that things are uh, you just can't give enough information in the time frame that these TikToks allow for right now.
Yeah, great question, Nathan. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this next question too. This is a good one that applies to everyone. Um, and then, yeah, how
Distracted
to
at
stop
work.
getting distracted at work. Yeah,
Um, yeah. So this comes back to some of the other stuff we were talking about earlier, and really depends a lot on what they mean by getting distracted and why they're getting distracted. Um, because we were like talking about the paperwork earlier. Is it a problem of this is just boring and I don't want to do it anymore? And so that would mean what we want to focus on then is how do we make this more interesting? How do I get myself to engage with this so that I am not getting distracted from this and I can do what I want? And that could be, again, listening to music, gamification, uh, doing maybe making the process easier. But there can also be distraction at work, can also come from a lot of other things. Like, is it that your office is by the lunchroom and people make awful food that you keep getting these smells coming in. You're like, oh, and then like just that pulling away is distracting you. Or maybe you have a bunch of notifications coming in on your phone, and you're like, oh, I want to read about this new th- new thing, and that makes it really hard to stay focused. So that's a lot about how can we re do our environment to, like, if we modify our environment, then we can make it so that we have fewer of those distractions that are coming in and uh, keeping us from staying focused. So that could be maybe if you're having audio things, having some good headphones. If your phone is putting it on like a focus mode. It can also come from having like, oh, maybe I just need to have like an accountability partner. I need to do some like uh, online, like just jump into one of the online accountability programs and have someone working that I'm going to work with for an hour. And then finally, it's also important to consider, are you taking time for yourself to have a break and stuff? Is it something where you're like, oh, I just want to work 8 hours straight and I'm not keeping a realistic understanding of what I need to be doing? So that's just all about, I can only stay focused for so long. And after a certain amount of time, I need to take a break. A lot of people like Pomodoro method, which is like 15 minutes of work and a 5-minute break. Um, that works better for certain things. I find that works better for very like email tasks, things where I can like kind of like be iterative. If I'm doing writing, I need to take more like a 45-minute uh, session and then do like a 10-minute break. So it's all about finding out, am I doing enough to make it so I can focus and that I'm not just trying to power through, and that's what's really the distraction is coming from.
Awesome. Um, Here's a question from Lisa. As it comes in through chat.
Okay. Speaking of dysregulation, I'm in need of a non reactive way to respond to people who believe that people admitting they have ADHD are just using it as a crutch. Yeah, this is comes back to Nathan's question with the social, the people, how people don't view ADHD, and like this is such a frustrating thing because people be like, oh yeah, you just, especially with like all the new diagnosis stuff coming out and people being like, oh, you're just on this trend of ADHD. And it's like, no, I have a condition that uh, I need help with. And I think a good way to think about it here is that is through that lens of what the diagnosis actually is. Because we have this, I'm imagining with this phrase of, well, everyone's a little bit ADHD. And if you then take that at face value, go, well, the diagnosis for ADHD is that you have all these things that, yes, everyone might have to deal with, but creates a significant impairment in my life in one or more areas. And it is this significant impairment that we get from ADHD. So it's like, uh, while you might see me using it as a crutch, maybe I need the crutch. Maybe I do need the help. It's like, unfortunately, I do need help. Uh, it's the kind of like the reverse when people you like go, oh yeah, I'm going to be going on this trip, and it's like, oh, that wouldn't that be nice? It's like, yeah, it would be nice, or it is nice. I love that I get to do this. Or and in this case, yeah, why do I need extra help? Because I do. That's what how my brain works. That is what this is a crutch. This is what is helping me get through my day. This is what is helping me do work. Without it, I would not do it. I need the accommodations because otherwise, what I want to do can't happen. Um, and you asked for a non-reactive way, and I was a little bit reactive there, so I realized that I didn't quite answer that question, but I feel like I kind of got to the idea there.
Yeah, it's admitting, and they kind of are just being like, hey, yes, I do need the help. Like it's not if it is a crutch, that's not on me, it's on you.
Yeah, it's like I mean, is the one of the great examples would be like my glasses. It's like, oh, well, why? Like, I can take these off, and now I'm very blurry. Um, Man, my vision has gotten much worse.
Age.
But it's like, yeah, wearing glasses is an accommodation that makes it so that I can interact with the world, so that I can read. I need them.
Mm,
And while it feels like, oh yeah, you should just be able to see, you don't have my eyes.
mm. That's true. Great question, Lisa. Thank you so much. We're going to jump right into this next one too, and it's this is one of our submitted questions. Basically, motivation and ADHD. How do you stay engaged with forming a habit or hobby without quitting?
Yeah. This is I've had this as a episode topic for 4 years now that I've been like, I should write about this. And just have not gotten to it because I still have trouble with it. Um, I recently have started getting into doing um, these logic puzzles called code words. They're like reverse crosswords where you have a crossword, but you don't have any clues. You just have a grid of numbers that can like correspond with the thing, and you have to figure out what letters go in. And they're a lot of fun. And I'm like, oh, this is, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy a bunch of these books. And I'm like, oh, I need to slow down. I'm really into this now, but am I going to stay doing these? Because I also have like other. I'm looking. Like, oh, there's my pile of other puzzle books over there that I don't do anymore. Um, for other reasons, and it is hard to keep up with hobbies. It is hard to stay engaged with doing new habits. Um, the first thing that comes to mind is doing some sort of accountability for those things that you really want to stay engaged with. Um, Doing have if you're like, oh, I'm going to learn a new skill, having someone that I can be like, hey, you want to like for easiest state going like a gym buddy going to the gym with them. Maybe you have you're going to learn a song on guitar and you're like, hey, I want to play this song for you. I don't know it yet. I'm going to learn it in a month. And uh, then being like, okay, now I have a deadline to learn this by. And then, of course, you also have to build in a schedule that you're going to practice because it can feel. When I was a kid, I wanted to learn to juggle. And so I thought, I'm going to make the pressure so high that I can't fail. So I'm going to juggle some eggs. 15 seconds later, I was cleaning eggs off the floor because that kind of like just high pressure did not work. Um, Later in life, I did learn how to juggle, and it was just by doing it. I was like, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes a day. I'm just going to record in a habit thing that I did 5 minutes. It's going to be a little thing like when I'm like, you know, put the little juggling bags next to my computer when I need a break. I'm just going to dot, dot, dot. I'm going to read a little bit about how to do it and learn, okay, I need to do start off with just doing this one hand, the other hand, with, and, and then kind of building my way up do it where I'm standing over a desk. I'm not always bending down. And knowing those like little key things was like, okay, this has made this something. And then, a month later, doing 5 minutes a day, I was like, oh, I'm decent at juggling. Uh, and so, yeah, a lot of it's like accountability, making it small so that it can stick, and keeping, especially, yeah, out of sight, out of mind. We're not going to remember stuff if we're having to put it away. Reduce that resistance to doing the thing you want to do and increase resistance to things you don't want to do.
Nice. Great, Will. Thank you for answering that. Um, Jumping into next question. This is a little bit along this. It's a little bit different. Um, Let me just from Delphine. How do you manage meals when the whole family has ADHD?
That is tricky because uh, the whole family has ADHD and it's not fun. That's how my household is, and mealtime can be because it's not just planning the meals; it's planning the meals that everyone will eat. It's having the ingredients ready when you want to have the meals, and it's having the energy to make those meals when it's what's on the list. So the first thing to do is figure out what's important, the most important step for you. Like, what is the most important thing about having the meals at home? Is it having a fancy meal? Is it having a home cooked meal? Is it having just food on the table? What is the most important thing for you? And planning around that, because I do a lot of the cooking in my house, and so it is the planning part is a pain, but needs to be done. And especially with I have children that do not really enjoy uh, being explorers with their food. Uh, Although we've been working on that recently with a point system, and they love earning points for trying new foods, especially when they're like, "Oh, I got a point," and then 20 points later they get a prize. Uh, Great external motivation for get them to try new things. But yeah, so the first step is having a knowing what the goal really is, really defining like what's the most important thing, and then how do I make that happen, and what am I willing to let go of to make sure that I can make that happen? Because if it's just like I just want to have meals with my family that are relatively healthy, that are not us eating out every night. Okay, how do I do that? Do I need to buy more chopped up vegetables? Do I need to do more meal prep on my own? Do Can I buy a $5 Costco chicken and use that as a starter for the meal and then build around that, because that's so much easier than having to cook everything myself. And then also, I think what's really helpful for me is having a having a list of what meals I can make, because when I'm like, oh, I need to make food tonight, and I haven't planned, my mind is just blank. But if I have this like list, I can like, oh, these are things that everybody likes. Okay, that makes it so much easier to be like, okay, well, I'll do this one. Scrambled eggs and pasta. Great. Super easy. I can do that in 20 minutes, and I don't even really need a lot of prep. Although with price of eggs now, yeah, I can imagine that's not as much of an option, but got to keep it topical, right?
Yeah. No, that's great, Will. Great job. We got another question coming in from it was pre-submitted. Um, and it's about management. Basically um your thoughts on okay, so we'll go college student or gamer and take Adderall for fun. So we'll go with James's question first, and then the next one.
Okay.
Uh, so I'll just put this here.
Thoughts on the ADHD meds for fun thing? Okay. Um, that is tricky. Because yeah, you mean you probably shouldn't be abusing any drugs. And the problem is a lot of people see this. I hate that people are doing this because it makes it harder for people. It creates fuel for that argument that like, oh, ADHD is not real, and that if this is just uh, these you people seeking out to get medication are drug seeking, and they're not. They don't really need it.
I think it minimizes the severity, right?
Yeah,
Is what you're trying to
yeah.
say.
It makes it so people like, oh yeah, you don't have a deficit, you're just lazy, and it's like
Mm,
that's not what's going on here. That's I have significant impairment.
hmm
It's like it's like one of those things where I don't really notice when I'm on my medication, but I absolutely notice when I'm not. I'll be like sitting there being like, what is going on today? I can't do anything. And then I have these caps on my med bottles that show if I've taken them for the day. That it shows when the last time I took them, and it's just like, oh, I didn't take them today. That's what's going on. Um, but yeah, so the yeah, people taking it for fun is it raises the stigma for ADHD, and it's raises the idea that people are. Uh, this is where people get the idea that ADHD medication is addictive, because it can be in a uh, when you are not taking it as prescribed by a doctor. But a well controlled dosage that you are regularly taking does is not addictive at all, as many people with ADHD know. I just mentioned I will forget that I've not taken my medication. That's kind of indicative that it is does not have a huge addictive effect for myself.
Yeah, and what James says here is it also makes it harder
Yeah.
for people who are actually diagnosed with ADHD to get the meds because doctors are, I don't know, least likely to prescribe it. I don't know, but yeah, so I don't advise it.
Yeah.
um,
You
yeah.
don't advise abusing drugs? Wow.
Sorry, man.
I mean,
Sorry.
I thought we were the fun podcast, but
um, we'll come back. We'll do this question from Brian right now too. It popped up in chat. So, how can I stop forgetting things I have already learned?
uh that's tricky because I um the this is reminding me the other night I was playing I playing this legacy board game with some of the other dads in my neighborhood, and we were trying to find something, and we're like, oh, here's the like little document for what we need to do next, and we had already filled it out. It like none of us remembered having done this task, because it's a legacy game and we did it like a year and a half ago. And it's one of those things where you like, yeah, you'll forget things that you have learned, and it is frustrating when you come back to them and you're like, what? How do I not know this? So the way I combat this a lot is taking notes and then making it easy for me to find those notes when I uh, need them, because often that is just being like reading what I have written will really just quickly refresh in my brain, like, oh, yeah, this is that thing that I was talking about. And this is like, oh, I do know this. And having that like quick refresher is great. And then this can also apply for like, I've learned this thing that I want to apply in my life. How do I keep it fresh? One of the fun things to do here is write yourself an email to your future. There's like the email service like Future Me or Boomerang or a number of them where you can be like, hey, I like doing this thing. It's working for me right now. And then be like, send that to me in 6 months. And then you get in that and you're like, oh, yeah, that thing. Either I'm doing it still or maybe I should start doing it again. 6 months ago, me thought it was great. So, yeah, it is really hard to just keep yourself from forgetting things that you've learned. But the way that I like notes for keeping things fresh.
Great, great way to deal with that. Cool. We're gonna jump back to the question that I posted from our pre submitted question too, from Roberta. How do I juggle the following: a sick husband, work, and trying to settle my sister's estate in another state? I feel so overwhelmed. I imagine that's like a
Yeah.
regular feeling for a lot of those diagnosed with ADHD. So maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Overwhelmed is something that all of us have felt. And the uh, go back to, I think that taking this, the same page from the meal planning, what, what's the most important thing? Prioritize that. What needs to happen? And then how can I get there? And then what am I willing to give up to get there? What are the things that I can step back on? Where are the places that I can ask for help from other people? And yeah, helping. I don't know how sick your husband is. I hope they're just not super sick. They're just got the
Mm,
sniffles. But uh, that can still be like, yeah, I'm feel like I have to do everything, and it's how am I going to get anything done? This is the kind of thing where I'm like, where I feel that overwhelmed. I'm like, I hope something happens so that I can be have a reason to not do this. It's like, oh, maybe if I fell down the stairs. No, no, don't want that. But kinda. Uh,
it would make my life easier.
yeah, and I'm like, well, it really wouldn't,
No, no.
but no one would blame me if I didn't do file my taxes on time because I fell down the stairs. Um, um, and it's like, oh yeah, wouldn't have to publish episodes. I would be maybe I'd be in the hospital for a few days. I could rest. that'd be nice. It's like, no, that really wouldn't be. And if I'm feeling this way, that's an indication that I need to cut back somewhere, somehow. And uh, it's one of those things where it feels like you can't cut back anywhere. But I just described a situation where I would have to, like, I would be physically forced to cut back. And while that isn't an okay solution, it is an indication that, oh, I could cut back somewhere. Like
Hmm.
there are things that I can get away with not doing. Get away. There are things that I can get help from other people to do it or just not do because I need to be like, hey, I need to I don't have the mental capacity to do all this. I need to cut back somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, great answer, Will. Thank you.
And
Um,
Nathan reminds me that the government will still be mad at me if I don't file my taxes just because I fell down the stairs.
yeah, valid.
But I could be like, oh, I need to file for an extension. Also, we are past our normal time, but we started late, so we will be going for a bit longer too.
Awesome. And then just to touch on that too, there's so many questions, and the response to the form and the RSVPs have been incredible. So what we're gonna do is like we'll answer a couple more questions, get through all of that, because we've already been going for a while. But yeah, we did start late, which we apologize for. But hopefully next time there won't be an issue because we have nailed it down. So we're just gonna go ahead and ask this the next question. This is from Nick.
Let's see. I'm looking for strategies for getting through hits on confidence and self belief that I can grow with long term struggles for ADHDers. Is coaching or therapy good for this? It can be. Yes, coaching and therapy can both be good for building confidence and self belief about things. Uh, Depending on where these your previous self beliefs about yourself have formed from. If they're like trauma based, therapy is a better option. If they're more of just like, I kind of think that, uh, like just having grown up, that's just kind of like I felt like, yeah, this is what not that confident. Then that may coaching might be a better option there. So it really depends on what where that comes from and how you should approach that. Because there's a lot of reasons that you could have difficulties with confidence. Um, and there can also come just like, yeah, the whole fake it till you make it thing can be great for confidence. It's feels very silly because, but it is surprising when you realize how little people have insight to your own brain. Because the times I often struggle with confidence, and yet I have this AMA going on where people are coming to me and talking to me about things, and I do think I am helping people with what I'm saying. So that the faking it till you make it kind of worked there, but it is something where yeah, you kind of just have to practice it, and it's not a skill that always comes easily, but if you keep practicing it, it becomes a lot easier to do. And then yeah, self belief is you don't have to believe everything you think. You get to choose what you believe. It does not feel that way, but if you really work on it, you're like, I can choose what I want to believe. I do not have to believe certain things. I have changed my beliefs as I have grown as a person throughout my life. I am a different person than I was in high school and than I am on as a person uh who I am now. And I have different beliefs just because I have grown as a person. And oh, if my beliefs have changed, that means that I can change them. Like my experience changed them, and now I can kind of just be like, oh, this is how I can do it now. This is I can choose what I want to believe, and it is hard. That is, I'm not trying to minimize that self belief is an easy thing, but you can. choose what you want to believe and be like, I can be the person I want to be.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, so I say we answer this question from Brian. He says, "Have you done an episode yet on ADHD paralysis?"
No,
There's an answer to your
yeah.
question, Brian. But I,
But just do a note on ADHD paralysis. The way I get through it is taking the smallest step I can, the like absolute bare minimum. Be like, can I wiggle my toes? Oh, I can do that. Can I wiggle my foot? I can do that. And kind of working my way up to being like, can I get off the couch? Well, I wiggle my foot so I can get off the couch. Um, with a bunch of steps in between. Uh, and although it can also come from just being like, man, I don't want to get off the couch. Well, I'm just going to do it anyways. I know I don't want to, but I'm going to. Um,
is
and
that is that an episode you could do, Will?
at some point, probably yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest right now. I am struggling with writing episodes recently. So I've been leaning on the fact that I have a stockpile of interviews. So, but I will get back to writing them soon. But uh, the episode I'm planning on writing has to do with why it is difficult to be writing episodes, which is that it is hard to keep focused when there's so much going on in the world.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question, Brian, a little bit. We got one more. I think we got time for one more. And I know James has been in this chat for a while, and we finally got to his question. So it's a long one, Will. And let's see how this goes. Wow. I wonder if it's going to take up the whole screen.
Could be.
So if I show this. Okay, so I'm just going to read it to you.
Yep.
So it says, on the podcast, you often talk about how meds
Can be.
can be very helpful for people. I understand you are not a doctor or healthcare professional and have said so on the show when it comes to medications. This is not me asking for advice on medications or what meds to take or whatever. So I currently take stimulant meds for my ADHD. I find with meds, I can be a lot more productive, do more, and am more productive. At the same time, I can also take the meds and get very little done. So his question is, uh, do you have any advice on maximizing the benefits of medications rather than feeling as though you wasted having taken them?
Yes, I mean I know this feeling of like, why I did everything the same today. Why is this so hard? And usually it's not the truth that I did everything the same. Um, Medication will be most effective when you have good sleep, you're eating well, you're hydrated, you're taking breaks, you're exercising, you're getting outside. I know that's a long list of things to do that are not easy. Although, admittedly, meds make doing all of those things easier, except perhaps eating well, because depending on your side effects with your medication, some people have a lot of trouble with food. Um, but uh, I think the number one thing is trying to make sure you have really good sleep. I know when I have bad sleep, I have a lot of trouble with my executive function. And while meds will help, they do not help compared to having a good night's sleep. And I cannot fix it just by having more caffeine because that's just more stimulants. It's it helps, but it does not fix the deficit that I have. And oh, there's another one I want to add to the list. Social time is a shockingly good way to help with productivity too. Uh, if you are just trying to nose to the grindstone and not doing anything where you're having fun in your life and being social, it is not good. I have discovered that recently when I had like a game night with the people in my neighborhood, and I was like, oh, I feel happy. Huh. Yes, I have only been doing like I enjoy time with my family, but it's like, oh, I've just been like doing stuff. Okay, I need to do these other social things and it makes me feel better. And then that makes it easier to work because I feel good.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's maximizing med effectiveness is comes from self care, doing the things that you're like. If I am overly stressed, won't work. Like the burnout and all that. It is going to make it so that they are less effective. And yeah, all those physical needs are also going to be right up there in things that you need to take care of, because it's just, if you want your brain running that well, it takes more than just the pills.
Hmm. That's great, and I think that's a great way to end this today. There was a lot more we could get to, and at some point we'll probably post these questions and then answers in a separate
Yeah.
medium, a separate form. Um,
And I do want to. There was one I just want to make sure I hit. I won't do it, but they had questions about uh, differences between uh, ADHD in men and women and why they occur and everything.
oh
And I
yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah. That was a
we don't have to do the full question. I'll just do a quick thing here. Uh, when we're looking at the differences, they occur often because of genetics. Just that is, we there's a lot of social difference from uh, how people are raised and how people are socialized, and so that is a effect of how they are different. And in terms of socialization, it's often more from how we identify ADHD. It is often identified as a problem condition where we're looking for, what did this person do that affected the outside world rather than what is affecting them internally. So that is often why it has social differences. And then there's a big piece for of those differences just come from hormones. Uh, Men do not have the same kind of hormonal cycle as uh, women do for uh, these conditions for ADHD, and that can affect a lot of things. I know people, uh, women report that when they are on their period, they have less effectiveness from their medication and an increase in symptoms. Great double whammy for you there. It's a problem. There's, and so it's, um, I had a friend that was, friend Moira that talked about this on her podcast, but I think that's she has stopped doing that since. But her was just like, yeah, yeah, just there's, I have to plan my month around. Like there are days that I do more and days that I do less, because I have to just account for reality of when I'm going to be most productive and when I'm going to be least. Which is also something I talk about. Like, yeah, we're going to have times during the day when we're most effective and least effective, and so we have to kind of do that. Lisa also mentioned, yeah, a lot of studies did not include uh, women when they were uh, being done, and so there are there's a lot of skewed data about it. And so I did want to mention, I didn't write them down, the names down, but understood.org has a number of podcasts by women for women with ADHD that I think are great, and great resources. So hey, understood.org has a number of ADHD resources now that I love. They're also going to have a series come out, I think next month, about the levels of diagnosis that I'm looking forward to listening to. Like it's going to be uh, investigative, kind of like, not true crime, but like in the same kind of like investigative genre as that, of like, how did this happen and what's being done? Like, why was there such an increase in diagnosis when women were being diagnosed during the pandemic? Ooh, oh, and let's see. James had a follow up. Oh yeah, so days that you do nothing and days. I mean, I think it's, yeah, it's, that's just about planning. Like, did you, what planning, accountability, what systems did you have in place? So yeah, he was asking, James was asking follow up, like, oh, just days when I'm doing tasks versus days when I do nothing. Both on meds. And yeah, I think it's a lot about like what my intentions for the day was. How did I set them? And because the clearer I have a picture of a day, the more likely I'm going to follow through with those plans. But if I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do these things, and I'll look at my to-do list at some point, I'm probably not gonna do anything. I'm gonna have and then there's also, yeah, going back to way earlier, take breaks sometimes. It feels like we should be always firing on all cylinders, but it's good to take those mental health breaks too.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, we're past our time. We want to keep things succinct. I know everybody's super busy. First, thank you so much for sort of sharing your time with us. We apologize for the technical difficulties, but it seems like we got it eventually, and it shouldn't happen again. We apologize, but we thank you so much for sticking with us. Um,
Yeah,
this
thank
is
you so much for coming on and spending the time with me and trusting me with your questions. I really appreciate it, and I love that you trust me enough to ask me. So, uh, thank you for making this happen because I can't do a Q&A without the cues.
true. So a couple last minute things. Please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, Hacking Your ADHD. Um, we're gonna try and do these more frequently and be more active. I'm trying to get Will out of the bubble a little bit and get him out there more because he's so lovable and likable. I mean, look at him. You can look at him. Uh, he's trying to hide behind a mic. And
That's what
then
you do as
so
a podcaster.
right up here, you see the Patreon for all those who are subscribed. Thank you so much. But here's the QR code for it. Um, thank you so much for this. We're gonna do it again. And as always, please keep listening to the podcast. The episodes are gonna keep flowing every week. Um, yeah, it's so great to hear that you guys have all these questions, and we'll try to. There was probably about 6 or 7 super beefy questions
Yeah.
that were pre-submitted that could be separate. So we'll touch on those to make sure everybody gets like a even keel, an even representation too. So yeah, that's it. I'm Kelly. I'm super happy that I was able to help, and yeah, thank you so much. Take it easy, and Will, any parting words?
But my brain's like, oh, you're done. You're done. Uh,
It's a lot of talking, man. You talk for like an hour straight, man.
yeah.
So I get it. But anyway, we appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for staying with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, everybody. And
Thanks.
I'll catch you next time.